want to ask you a question. Uh, will I get my slides? That's not the question I want to ask you. When was the last time you truly felt at home inside your body? Not because everything is fine, you're on the side of the pool and sipping a mocktail or a cocktail and, nothing to worry about. No, calm because you were truly listening, not with your ego, but the fullness of who you are. Because most of us have never been taught that, never been taught to listen to the body. We're taught to override it, right? We're taught to control it, to be ashamed of it, to push it. Today we even hear conversation about merging us with robots so we can keep competing. With what? And then stress shows up, anxiety shows up, depletion, issues sleeping, and we're wondering why. Why? When stress shows up and when anxiety shows up, it makes it even more complicated to listen. And yet, listening is so important because let's think about it for a second. What if stress is not a failure, a sign that you're too weak, you cannot compete with whatever is the next challenge that we want to be thrown in? But what if stress is an information? Let's think about that. Maybe there is nothing wrong. We're not too weak. We're not too whatever it is that society wants to make us feel. But maybe we're actually having a body that works perfectly well and is constantly broadcasting us an information. So maybe the body isn't the problem. Maybe it's the fact that we've been trained to ignore the message it sends us that might be the problem. So before we continue, I want to explain very clearly something. My talk is not about improving you, showing you how to fix yourself, because I don't think that there is anything wrong with us, any of us, most of us. But I want this talk to be a way for us to remember to listen and to remember who we are and those things that we were never taught to trust that are happening inside of us. Our body carries something pretty unique that I like to call the hidden power. And it's not just me that says this. Across cultures, Eastern and Western philosophies, physics, even neuroscience is starting to have this quiet agreement that we hold a hidden power. And I'm sorry, gentlemen, it's not strength. It's intelligence. Our body has been communicating with us all along. And we didn't get the cues because we think that we're going to hear a message like Hollywood, a flash, something vivid. But it might be a little more subtle than this. And my understanding of all of this didn't come from books, from reading those philosophies. It really came from collapse. And I'm going to start here where my ability to listen was taken from me. If we can take the next slide. It was in Paris. We're going to start, where it was taken from me, not through conscious choice, but through depletion. I remember I was in 2014 in a bus, very similar to that one, on my way to the city hall to renew my ID. And as I was looking at my ID, that's when it hit me. I was about to get my picture taken, and I realized at that moment, I didn't know how I was going to get my picture taken because I couldn't stop the flow of tears. That's when I realized my eyes were red, puffy, the cheeks dried from the tears. And honestly, I couldn't answer that question. When was the last time I had a tear-free day? Have you ever had that kind of moments where you're like, realizing that you've been in the dark and you don't even remember when it happened, how it happened, and you're just there? Let me be very clear. That was not oh my God, what just happened? I didn't fall in the pit magically. It was a long time coming. I arrived in Paris, just like most of us arrive in the big city in our 20s. This dreams, the stars in our eyes, were ready to eat, the world and to embrace challenges. And that's what I did. Did my memoir, passed my master's, started a 9 to 5, but it was not enough, so I didn't create just one, but 2 businesses. And of course, networking, it's Paris. So at night, I was not sleeping. I was partying, making sure I burned the candle from both ends. Right? That's what you do in the big city. And looking back on it, it looked amazing on paper, right? I'm in Paris for 2 years. My daily route was to go up and down the Champs-Élysées. Not too shabby. But inside, I was completely disconnected. I had been a spiritual person my whole life, believed in God in a family that was anti-religious and atheist. And there, I never prayed. I was completely disconnected. There was nothing healthy in my lifestyle. And worse, I was not just not paying attention and not listening, I was overriding. So when my body would send me signals of stress, I would shut it down, maybe drink a little more with my friends, rough it, and double down. I think that my record was working 16 hours straight once because, we have a business, we need to get going. And it's okay, I'll sleep 3 hours and, I'm in my 20s, that's what we're here for. And then I'll double down until this happened. When you're completely disconnected, you don't pay attention to what's going on inside, you don't pay attention to what's going on outside. So my business came crushing down. And so did my relationship with my best friend that had been co-creating the business. So after 4 years, I was in this bus with nothing to show for myself but tears. I was depleted and starting to to shut my circle of friends. I was only seeing my bandmates. I was going to work. And because I had a business loan to reimburse, I was doing Airbnb in my palace of 170 square foot. Looking back, I don't even know how I did that, to share that space with men and women and whoever wanted to come in my house. But that's what happened. What I didn't know at the time, honestly, though, is it was a blessing in disguise. Because my ego had been running the show, thinking it was alone in the decision-making. And, well, let's put it in a very French way. My body at some point said, no, I'm going on strike. And so for the months leading after this moment of realization, I was mostly in my house, just working, seeing my bandmates, and hosting my Airbnb, and that was it. I was doing nothing. I had no plans. It had taken me that collapse to finally surrender. Say, okay, I don't have all the rules. But I really thought that I was broken, that I was too weak, that I was not equipped for this world. Anybody else felt that like this at some point? Okay, I'm not the only one. Well, science proves that I was not broken and none of us are, and there is nothing wrong with us. If we can go to the next slide. My reason for being completely closed and only seeing a handful of people is shown by, science proves it. It shows that what's going on internally in our consciousness is actually happening in all our body. Our stress is not a mindset, it's really patterned, as you can see on the slide. So what happens is that when we are in a rest and digest mode, we are friendly, outgoing, we want to exchange with the world, and yeah, that's me again. And when we get into a fight or flight, which back then was amazing, right? It was a superpower that we had. But today we are constantly in a fight and flight. And so our body is starting to get a little more tensed. We see in our heart rate variability, we are a lot more tense. We don't have the flexibility and the softness. Our polyvagal different system hierarchy is something that has been backed by science shows. You see the green area, it's our place of safety when everything is fine. As I was saying, when we start to engage with our stress in a way that is unhealthy and sustained, we get in a fight and flight zone, and we're starting to see way less people. We're starting to see our core group of people because we need safety, and we don't necessarily always realize that. And when we keep pushing that, and you're a trooper like me, and you're trying to ride the wave of stress all the way to wherever it goes, well, you get to the top of this little curve. And this is where we freeze, when the body is so tired that it cannot continue to run away. So we stop to see people. So when I was by myself in my little apartment, not wanting to see anybody, it's not because of anything else, but biology and my body working. Like, let's stop having conversation. Let's stop engage. Let's bring back a little bit of calm. But I just didn't know those things, right? And as you can see, the higher we go in our stress level, the longer it's going to take for us to gently go back. So even when we are in a recovery mode, we might feel like, oh, I'm regressing. No, you've been so high and for so long in your level of stress that it will take through different type of emotions that maybe feel like a setback, but you're actually coming out of the tunnel. The next slide, please. Another thing that really explains what's happening in our body is the allostatic load. There was a term coined in 1997, and it really explains how stress works in the body. See, when we adapt to things that are unhealthy to us, we start to load. How many of us have tensions here, right? So we start to load things, and we have mild symptoms like fatigue, restlessness, irritability. We get a little more irritable than usual. And if we continue, like a trooper, to pierce through that unhealthy lifestyle, well, we're going to start to have much more vivid signals being sent by the body, like difficulties to sleep, tension, anxiety, all the way continuingly, even to memory issues. I didn't say that earlier, but for 1 month, I didn't have short-term memory. When you're 26 and people keep telling you, honey, you already said that, it feels very awkward. And if you continue, it can go all the way to burnout and shut down. If you're lucky to have a burnout, there is a lot of people that stay right between the late and the collapse, and they create a crazy amount of chronic symptoms. But because they never get to the collapse, they cannot fully. The good news is we don't have to get to that state to finally offload what is on us. There are tools that are at our disposal that helps us reset our stress so that we avoid getting into these unhealthy space. Personally, again, I was so disconnected, I didn't realize that. I was just numb at that stage in that bus. And I finally released. And through doing this, and not because I wanted to, honestly, it was just because the body was like, we're not giving you any juice, ego. You're done. I felt like I was basically walking alongside my body for months. I'm like, whatever you need to do, dude. And through this, something magical happened. Through the little interaction that I had with my Airbnb guests and other people, the seed started to be planted in me. I hosted somebody who was from Ukraine, I believe, and he gave me tough love. He was like, no offense, dude, thank you for hosting me, but seriously, you have a green card, which is a visa to live and work here, and you're in this shithole? It's like, and I did not make any decision at that time again. I let that seed do its thing. The only thing that I felt deep down is that my chapter in Paris was done, and I was not ready to go back home. And after weeks, it came. I was like, okay, I feel it. I'm going to go to America. When I made that decision, really the decision, within 24 hours, I hosted someone from the US, which was not a common thing for me. I had people from all the world that were coming in my house. And he was from Portland, Oregon. You see where that's going? No puns intended. Next slide. The collapse was the first note of a new frequency. How to explain this? I really felt on a day-to-day that I was walking through like a thick, energetical dead end at that moment. And the moment I made that decision, even at the time, I felt like an energetical highway. I told myself, well, if that's not clear signals, you're a moron. You have to do that. And on paper, come on, I just came back from a burnout. I'm completely drained. I have no money. And I'm going to take everything I have and move on the other side of the world to a place where I don't know anyone? That looks crazy. But my ego could not internalize all these fears, so I just followed. And you know what? That was the best decision that could ever happen to me. Within a few months, I was surrounded in an environment that was much more healthy for me, surrounded with energy healers, my kind of people, musicians, my other kind of people. And I had landed a job, the most prestigious job that I ever had. I was in leadership, helping pass climate legislation in the largest climate organization in the Pacific Northwest. I helped pass 3 pieces of legislation to combat climate change in this polarized political landscape. Next slide. Don't get me wrong. It was not all rainbows and butterfly. Working on climate was very intense. Stress coming up and down. I even had a collapse at some point. But the most important thing is that from then on, I was listening to what was happening. And when I was told, you should go to the redwoods to heal, I didn't wait for months to see if it was okay, if my to-do list would allow that. Following week, I took 2 days off. And please, next slide. And I went in the redwoods. And those 3 days, doing nothing but journaling, meditating, co-regulating with the trees, I call them my healing cathedral, did more to me those 3 days than 3 or 4 months alone in my Parisian apartment. I had discovered the way to communicate with my body, that it was safe. And I had found the cues. So I continued until our chapter here to do this more often, to listen, to spend time with the trees. And every time I did that, something amazing happened. I found my husband's like this. And a lot of things started to fall into place where sometimes I didn't know where I was going, but there it goes. The answer would come later, just because I was listening, all the way to when we arrived in Central Oregon. We arrived in Central Oregon in beginning of 2020. Do you remember what happened that year? We moved here. I didn't know anybody. I was following my husband, and the governor signed a final piece of legislation 2 days before the shutdown, leaving us to feel like, what are we going to do for work? Right? There was no jobs available. I was in a new place, didn't know anybody. I mean, I could have let my ego shoot me all the fear signals in the world. Instead, I was very, very exhausted by the battles that we had been through with the politics. The only thing I knew is I didn't want to see a computer for years. I was like, I'm never touching those things ever again. And then something came to my mind, working in a nursery. The trees had been helping me all my life. That sounds like something I could do to pay back for nature. I would love to work in a nursery part-time and whatever needs to come after. Well, next slide. A week later, a new nursery had opened in Redmond, Oregon. And we went there because it was Mother's Day. I went to the cash register, looked at the owner, and I said, I want this plant and a part-time job. A week later, I was working there. And I'm still working with this person, not in the nursery, but the thing is that doing this part-time job, I had not found like the multi-million-dollar, business idea, none of that. I had found something that my body was like, ooh, that feels safe. And doing it part-time, gave me all the time left to start to explore what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So I started to embrace things that just felt good. I became a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, lifelong interest in energy healing, became a Reiki master, loved the idea of coaching, became a life coach, and started to pile up COVID. We had all the time in our hands, and I didn't have my kid at the time. And so looking back on it, it was amazing. And it allowed me to, through this path of not knowing what I was doing, just embracing the journey of learning all these new tools, I landed sound healing. And that's where I was like, I'm home. This is why I'm here. It took me only 3,000 miles and 2 call-ups to get to where. But what I want to say is that presence, in a world that always pushes us and rushes us, presence isn't laziness. It's power. In a world where everybody is always rushing to the next thing on their to-do list, taking even 5 minutes to connect with our body and be like, okay, what do we do? That's power. Next slide. So to find that kind of relationship with our body, we first need to go away from stress so that we can allow that space to get cleared, the space that the stress takes in our body. We clear that, and then clarity comes. And the beauty about our bodies is that It has as many ways to heal as it has to poison itself. This is just a handful of studies that we're going to go very quickly explore, that I'm fairly passionate about. Things that are internal to us that we can use to clear our stress and create that space inside so that that clarity, those messages can be shot in our body. That sense of feeling something is coming, you know? So the first thing that I love is awe. Being in a state of awe. That's what we do when we pray, when we meditate. Well, that physically, science has proven that it reduces tensions and inflammation inside the body. Just being in a state of awe. I mean, what? Vibroacoustic therapy, I love that you did this morning, and that just goes to show how aligned energetically we are. Because there is something about sound, but also internal sound. We have a voice, and when we hum, when we sing, we create an internal massage inside of us. You couple it with intention, it goes deep in the fabric of your being to help release that stress and reset much more faster. So it's fun and it heals. Meditation. A Harvard study by Sarah Lazar has proven that with just 8 weeks, less than 30 minutes a day, 8 weeks, the patient that she studied reduced the hippocampus, grew. That's the part that is in charge of regulating our emotion and allowing clarity. And the amygdala, the little gland that is responsible for stress, has shrinked. That study was proving that meditation, and I'm not talking monk style, like 8 hours a day for a year. I'm talking 27 minutes for 8 weeks, had physically changed the brain and made it stronger in the face of challenges. Thank you. Special effects. Heart coherence, that's one of my favorite. Something that science has proven is that we're not just having an impact when we do those things, that we come toward, when we turn inward and we listen and we allow our system to soften. It has an impact on the people around us. There are studies that have proven that when people get together and on a single intention, start to send that intention through a meditation and coherent system, it has an impact, it's had an impact on everybody in the room. We've felt it when we start to do a meditation. Sometimes it's subtle. Again, we're not talking Hollywood special effects kind of real, but you can feel that subtle, like, something just happened. And I love that we can have not only an impact on ourselves, but on everybody in the room. Come on, it's pretty amazing. Isn't that a superpower? So all of this to say that as great as it is to learn intellectually, our body needs to feel, to register. So I would like for us to do a couple of things together to really anchor that kind of exercise. Are you guys game to do that? All right, well, you said it. Next slide. We're going to start with a breath. The physiological sigh is a breath technique that has been found by, I think, Stanford University to be one of the most effective way to reset our nervous system. It's not a typo. We inhale twice. So don't inhale completely and then be like, ugh. Get ready. So we inhale once, inhale again, and slowly exhale with a soft sigh. We're going to do it 2 more times. Inhale. Don't be embarrassed. Make some noise. Thank you. All right, final one. Inhale. And exhale. And we're forgetting even while we're here, right? Like, wait, what's happening? 3 breaths. 15, 20 seconds. The next time you're feeling overwhelmed, do this exercise. You're going to be like, oh, what was I upset for again? Now next slide. Now we're going to continue in the sensation with sound. I'm going to ask you to take long breaths. And close your eyes. And put a hand on your chest, maybe one on your belly, or both hands on your chest, however it feels right for your body right now. And I want you to feel this beautiful piece of machinery that has been carrying you through this life. This body that sometimes we feel ashamed about, we feel like we need to alter, that we feel like, it's not good enough. Well, I want you to breathe in love to this body. And start to try to remember all the times that you've been surprised by your body. You know, those moments where you were like, I don't know why I need to go here today. And all of a sudden, when you were in that place, you're like, oh, you're here. That's why I was supposed to be there. And when you remember those synchronicities, those moments where you've been surprised, I want you to breathe some more love and gratitude for this amazing tool. It's not just arms and legs. It's an intelligent ecosystem, an antenna that is always trying to drive you toward harmony. Allow the vibration to come deep into your heart, melting with your energy of gratitude. Allow this vibration to amplify this moment. Before we close, I invite you to take a moment to notice your body, not your thoughts, not your analysis, just your body, how it feels right now. Even if the shifts are subtle, there is no shift. Subtlety matters because this is what clarity actually feels like. Clarity is not rushes of, it's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's not Hollywood. It's grounded, it's steady, it's coherent. I really don't think anymore that the body is something that we need to overcome. I believe that it is something that we need to come home to, that we need to trust, because our body feels as an antenna that is constantly feeling the energy of this world. And this world wants nothing but harmony. And I think that it will always direct us, next slide, to where we're supposed to go. So your body is always broadcasting that you're doing something that is not good, or that you're in a good way and it can bring you somewhere even better. The question is, will you listen? Knowing that, beware. If you listen, you might end up on the other side of the world, doing more for your new homeland than you ever dreamed possible in your home country. Thank you so much for listening.